free code camp. I put that right at the beginning because I'm like, this is always going to be free. I want people to know it's free. Free code camp, like it's the community for busy adults, essentially. Most of them are working full time. A lot of them have kids, mortgages. What we do is we break everything up into extremely bite-sized little chunks where you can hop on and productively code. Information is infinitely reproducible. There's no reason that we have to charge money for information. I feel like if you're blessed with abundance, you have a duty, should you choose to heed the call, to go out and try to help other people.
Welcome to Coffeezilla, another edition of the Sunday special. Today, we have a very exciting episode. Got the Lambo in the back because we're talking about knowledge. Okay, today we have Quincy Larson, the founder of Free Code Camp, and I'm here to talk to you guys. It's a positive episode. Quincy, thanks for coming.
Hey, thanks for having me, man.
Quincy, first, tell me about your background. Your site, Free Code Camp, is a place where anyone can get a programming education for free, right?
Yep, that's right.
It's no strings attached, no backdoor agreements, actually for free.
Yeah, you just have to put in the time, which is a big ask for a lot of people, but yeah.
That's amazing. First of all, I believe in this model of education as sort of the way of the future. How many kids, though, actually have, or it's probably not just kids, I'm sure it's a lot of adults also trying to continue their education. How many people have gone through this?
Yeah, so we have about 40,000 people who have finished Free Code Camp and gone and gotten a job as a software engineer.
Awesome.
40,000. And those people haven't paid a dime. They've just sat down and grinded really hard for like several years in most cases. And there are some kids, nobody under 13, please don't use our site. It's illegal according to COPPA. So if we find out you're under 13, we have to delete your account. But the average, like the median age of people who use Free Code Camp is closer to 30, 31.
Wow. So it is a lot of adults trying to kind of future-proof themselves. I mean, it's no secret that the world is going to a more tech code-centered world. And even knowing some code, even if you don't want to be a software developer, can be extremely useful at your job, anywhere you really are. Is the goal of most people to pivot away to a new education? Is it to give themselves like a better life? I mean, what's kind of what you hear from the community?
Yeah, absolutely. So the people who use Free Code Camp generally, like they already are working in some capacity because it's the community for busy adults, essentially. Most of them are working full time. A lot of them have kids, mortgages, maybe elderly parents and relatives they're taking care of, or people with disabilities. They're busy. They don't have a lot of time. And what we do is we break everything up into extremely bite-sized little chunks where you can hop on and, productively code maybe 30 minutes a day. I can like preach about this all day, but basically you want to take time. You want to take a few years to learn all this knowledge. It's a lot. If you try to like drink from the proverbial fire hose, you're going to find yourself without a lot of face. So I would definitely recommend just taking it easy and planning to stay in school, stay at your job. Don't do anything dramatic or risky, and just gradually, expand your skills and transition into a more technical role. That for some people, that could be becoming a full-blown software engineer. For some people, that could be becoming a full-blown data scientist. For a lot of people, that just means being more effective in their, accounting practice or their, marketing consultancy or whatever it is they're doing. Like you can use code so many different ways. You can make your life so much easier just by automating the tedious parts of your job and being able to focus on, the dynamic stuff that actually involves thinking.
I love this. So I don't know how much you know about Coffeezilla, but we're more focused on like a lot of scams. And oftentimes people go, oh, well, what can I rely on as like a resource or educational thing? And I can happily recommend things that are free. But I think, as you said, it's important to like note that any kind of worthwhile thing, education, otherwise job prospect, it takes time. And I appreciate you saying that it takes like multiple years. Is that usually what you guys find, like 2 to 3 years to go through completely?
I mean, the fastest somebody who's completed our curriculum, which is about 2,000 hours worth of coursework, this very ambitious, he's already professional software engineer. He went through our curriculum with basically his review, and it still took him 29 days, basically speed running it all day, every day. Yeah, he speed ran the free code camp curriculum in 29 days. So it's a lot to take in, and
insane.
I mean it when I say, like, don't expect to be a developer in like 9 months.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you were to go to like one of these intensive coding boot camps, like, you're going to spend a whole lot of time preparing for that, or you're going to not really get a lot out of it, because you have to have a strong baseline knowledge if you're going to try to gear up and learn intensively. Mm-hmm. And then what they often don't tell you is it takes months and months and months of job search to get a job. Like a perfect example, if you Google coding boot camps, you'll find like this article by somebody, free code camp community, who wrote about, like, he went to Berkeley. He already had like, I think, like an undergraduate engineering degree from Berkeley. And he went to the most, I guess, prestigious coding boot camp at the time, 2016-ish. And he still had to apply to hundreds of jobs in order to get satisfactory job offers. And he ultimately did get like 6 job offers, and some of them were really good, but it took him months and months, and a lot of, it wasn't just like apply to 5 jobs a day. It was like, that was his full-time job. So there are tons of opportunities. There are hundreds of thousands of open positions for software engineers around the world, but people are very risk averse when they hire, because it's one bad software engineer can do a lot of damage to a code base and a lot of damage to the morale of an organization.
Quincy, I think something that you sort of represent is the open source paradigm, open internet, free internet, versus, also another very popular model, which is the paid, pay, like the for-profit model. Can you give me your explanation as to why you made Free Code Camp free? I mean, it is kind of counterintuitive. Why not make money from the thing? You can make a lot more of it.
Yeah. So this is probably going to be a long answer. There's this famous speech from Stuart Brand, creator of the Whole Earth Catalog, big inspiration to both Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak, early days, Palo Alto. He said, information wants to be free. And everybody hears that. Everybody's heard that expression, right? Information wants to be free. But what he said immediately afterward, he said, and it also wants to be very expensive, because the right information in the right place can totally change your life. And I feel like,
wow, that's really,
I internalized the information wants to be free, and everybody else internalized the last half of that, which is much more menacing. So for me, like, it was never a question. Like, I put free at the beginning of Free Code Camp. I'm going to try not to spill, tea on my laptop there, but Free Code Camp, I put that right at the beginning, because I'm like, this is always going to be free. I want people to know it's free. I don't want people to think it's like some bait and switch, right? Because it's like, that value is very important to me. Like, I grew up hearing information wants to be free and feeling that, and to some extent living that. And I just spent my days in the library, like reading books and living the kind of bohemian lifestyle of just like crashing on a mattress on the floor and then getting up and going back to the library. And for me, I met tons of people in California when I moved out to California, Santa Barbara area, just tons of people that didn't really care about money that much. I mean, granted, it's a relatively wealthy place, so it's easy to not care about money when you don't have to worry about freezing to death during the winter, and you don't have to worry about like other things that people have to worry about, right? It's a very privileged part of the United States. But I hung out there, and I was just really impressed that like these people could just like conjure money from thin air. I had a friend who was he had like a 6-core PC that was doing nothing but mining Bitcoin all throughout 2012, 2013.
It's a good time to mine.
Yeah.
that was a very good time to mine.
And he didn't care. Like this guy was the most ascetic person I'd ever met, right? Like he had this cheap little netbook that he coded on because it was lightweight and he could carry it. And he just wore the same clothes every day. And like you go to his room and all it is a desk that he put his laptop on and a bed. And he lived with this quadriplegic guy who was tragically injured during a like just a pool accident. He dove into shallow water, and his entire life he was quadriplegic. But he lived with them because they would give him $100 a month and just let him live there for free if he kind of helped out around the house, because people who are quadriplegic have lots of needs. And I was just incredibly inspired by that guy. Like he took the bus, he didn't drive, he didn't really spend any money at all. He ate the exact same meals. he would go to Subway and he had this exact same extremely healthy like sandwich that he had prepared with like grilled chicken and all the vegetables and a little bit of olive oil and stuff. And that's like, for him, life was very simple. It was like the closest you can get to like a life of mind that you imagine like Socrates living or Confucius, right? And that for me, he was such a huge inspiration for me. And that, like at the time I was, like the typical middle manager in a large, Japanese corporation, basically running like a school. And I've been a teacher and a school director for the past 10 years and done that in the US and in China and all the stuff. And I'd seen like how, having lived in China for 6 years, just seeing how little people live with, going out into the countryside and seeing people who like, they would just play mahjong and then they go back to the rice fields and that was their life. Right. That was their life. They had like this kind of shared warren that they lived in.
Yeah.
And, the migrant workers and everybody. And for me, it was just like, wow, if they can make do with all that. And like, here I am, like, with like a suit and like my own nice air conditioned office and all this stuff. And I'm not going to say it was like a, go to India type moment and like walk around barefoot like Steve Jobs experience or anything like that. But
or Jack Dorsey's trying to live out
Jack Dorsey.
every day. Yeah.
Yeah. The difference is Steve Jobs wasn't like a billionaire who was, with a nose ring
right,
when he did it.
I know.
I'm sorry. I don't want to rip too much on Jack Dorsey. At least he banned that one guy. But for me, free is a state of mind. Like if I feel like if you're blessed with abundance to the extent that, most middle-class Americans are, whether they want to acknowledge it or not, to some extent, like you have a duty, should you choose to heed the call, to go out and try to help other people. And the fact that I think is probably the most important single fact that defines my life is the knowledge that about 60% of people on earth live off like $5.50 a day. Just imagine that for a second. And there might be some people who are watching this who are in that demographic, because YouTube fortunately is free. And you can, if you have a smartphone, which most people do, you can watch things on YouTube. It's staggering to think about. Like a lot of people spend more than that on their phone bill each month. Right.
Yeah.
And yet people are living off of that. And people don't necessarily have credit cards. They're unbanked. If you put even like $1, paywall on your website, it shuts people out.
Absolutely.
So yeah, for me, it was very important that if we wanted to have like true accessibility in the socioeconomic sense of the word, then we needed to make sure that everything was free and nothing was paywalled. And to this day, like I refuse to put any sort of premium, behind the paywall content on Free Code Camp. Like we actually had a big falling out with Medium because they wanted us to put stuff behind a paywall and we refused. And it was very costly, but we were able to move all of our publication off of Medium as a result of that. And it's important. Free is, for me, it's the most powerful word, free. And we all want to be free, and we want to be free from want. And part of that is being able to get what we need. And what we need so much of in this life is just basic knowledge to be able to earn what we need to be able to provide for our families and to be able to sustain ourselves and our communities. And, once prosperity is totally gone, once you have like a true failed state like Somalia, things get very bad very quickly. And I don't want to see any society fall into that. And it doesn't have to. Information is infinitely reproducible. There's no reason that we have to charge money for information. MIT put their entire curriculum out in like the turn of the century, right? Like the entire MIT curriculum, open courseware. You could just go and learn from the best engineering school, perhaps in human history.
That is really mind-blowing. But one of the things, the nature of online education has really transformed also even the value proposition from needing to be, at one point you needed to pay teachers to constantly be showing up again and again and again. Nowadays, the cost of producing education has lowered actually. And so the fact that we see increasing college costs, I guess I don't rant against this enough. That's a crime. The fact that we see increasing all these like paid courses and stuff, it's like, no, actually education's value. It's not that it's valueless, but the ability to produce it at scale has exploded with the internet, with the rise of online video. Now you don't have to have the same teacher show up every year. You can record their best performance. You can get the best teacher on earth to show up, teach one time, and then show it to millions of people. So that is even a better case for what you're saying. When you look at the coding experience, I mean, what was your background going through it? Because surely it wasn't, Free Code Camp did not exist when you got started. What's your educational background? And were you the kind of first to market on this as far as the Free Code Camp stuff?
Yeah. So I'll just give you a very high level overview. So I dropped out of high school as a sophomore, like lived in my car for a year or two and just worked at Taco Bell. And at some point I was like, man, I do not want to be doing this for the rest of my life. And I'm grateful that happened, pre-COVID, because I would have been screwed, like working at I almost certainly would have caught it and been, one of the millions of Americans who lost their job or had other hardships as a result. So it's all in the timing, right? Like definitely survivorship bias was in my favor. So I did that. And eventually I went back to like state schools, the very same state schools that, our president, Joe Biden, went to, that he's pushing for essentially free community college. That's the kind of education I got. And it was very powerful because I got to learn what I needed to learn. And this is going to probably, spur some ire, some envy, but I only paid like $1,000 a semester to attend. It was very inexpensive in Oklahoma City where I grew up. And then I had the opportunity to go abroad. I did a graduate program in Tianjin, which is right outside of Beijing. And I did like an intensive Chinese program. I was the only white guy, the only with the guilo on campus.
School in?
What's that?
What was your graduate? What did you study in graduate school?
I did an MBA.
Oh, sorry, MBA. Okay, got it.
Yeah. So I do understand like basic economics, and it's interesting what you said about education in prices going up. Like if you look at like economic textbooks, like Hayek, not just the textbooks, but the actual economists like Milton Friedman, Friedrich Hayek, Keynes. You look at those people and like they kind of almost just assumed that technology was going to continue to drive prices down. It's weird that prices are going up for anything really, because technology is supposed to make things cheaper. That's what it does. Yeah. It makes widgets, it makes the manufacturing of widgets more effective. It makes the delivery of service more effective.
Well, and it has made it more effective. It has made it easier to produce, but there are obviously what the saying that you said earlier has held true, that information wants to be free. It also wants to be really expensive, because people come around in my experience and say, hey, you're going to get like our paywall will give you access to some magical secret. And there is something very enticing about that, where humans kind of naturally assume, well, if it's expensive, it must be quality, right? If it's expensive, it must have some secret that justifies its magical pricing. What you actually find out is there isn't such an easy correlation as you might assume. Because as you said, like literally MIT's courseware is online for free.
Yeah, there's like demand curves. If you look at demand curves traditionally, supply, demand, price goes down, where the two meet, right? And what you can have is upward sloping demand, where like a luxury good, for example, because it's luxury, it's got this halo, and the more expensive it gets, the more people want it. Like there's that iPhone app that's like I'm rich iPhone app or whatever, and you paid $1,000 and you got this thing, and it's just like this diamond that says you're rich, and that was the app, and people, like tons of people paid for that. It's wasteful that we have people that are so rich because they don't really appreciate it. The marginal utility of having more than like $80,000, $100,000, depending on how many kids you have in income a year, it just rapidly drops off. And, if you meet a lot of, multimillionaires, often they'll be, miserable sons of bitches. They're not really that happy. And yet if you took even a portion of their wealth and transferred it to like the single mothers and all the other people that are basically in dire straits, you could dramatically transform their lives. But we don't do that because the people get addicted to having this number. Like Nolan Bushnell, the creator of Atari and Chuck E. Cheese, has this great quote. He says, "Business is a game. You keep score with money," and that's how it works. Like in their mind, they just want to drive that number as high as possible. It's irrational. Why? Whenever I meet somebody who's like a multimillionaire, I always ask them like, so why do you want to be rich? And they look at me incredulously, but if they actually think about it and try to give me an answer, it's usually just to minimize downside risk. It's to get like health insurance and like, oh, if I have cancer, I'll be able to afford good treatments and stuff like that.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Everybody in Sweden gets that just for existing. They just pay like a slightly higher marginal tax rate, and they have healthcare. They have good education that doesn't cost an arm and a leg. Coming out of business school, I was very much of the thinking like, oh, like America's got a lot of things figured out. There's, capitalism is really effective. It's the market mechanism is really powerful. And the more I kind of like grew older and like read more and more about economics, the more I came to realize like, there are certain sectors where the market mechanisms can corrupt things more than they can help. And education and healthcare are two of those sectors. I'm definitely like a defender of capitalism, and I think that like a lot of the innovation that's come out has been because we've had globalization and capitalism, and like different organizations competing for consumer dollars and competing for government funding and things like that.
Right.
But it really falls apart when you look at the American healthcare system and when you look at the American education system. Like, I know so many people who've gone to serve overseas in the military who come back and they've got this GI Bill and they got suckered into some horrible for-profit university. Boom, GI Bill's gone. They've got a worthless degree, and some, Betsy DeVos has got an extra yacht.
The for-profit school system is, it's really bad. And it is interesting how forces that can be very good can also kind of work completely in the opposite direction. Let's talk about, how this intersects with what you do every day, because obviously you live, breathe kind of like this code camp. And obviously there are a lot of different people popping up. Obviously tech is the hot thing. It's been the hot thing for a long time. It looks to be the hot thing for a very long time in the future. How do you see yourself within the market? Obviously, there are people I talked about. Let's just say I've talked about a coding camp in the past who was, charging a lot of money, telling parents they pay this premium, their kid will get, a super job somewhere at Google or whatever. How does that work here? Can you make a case for why that is valuable, is not valuable, et cetera?
Yeah. Well, a lot of it's just a big sales job. One thing to do is go on Google AdWords, create like a Google AdWords account, and just look at how much it costs to bid for, university degree, like certain keywords, like bachelor's degree in nursing, or graduate degree, or coding bootcamp. That's another one that, like, if you search for coding bootcamp, you're going to get like potentially 3 or 4 ads on top of your Google results, because if you have to advertise a whole lot for something, that does say something, in my opinion. People have to advertise like Tide for going and washing their clothes, right? Because it's boring and people are like, but if something's truly compelling, there's a question about how much you really need to advertise for it. And a lot of, Trader Joe's, I've learned more from Trader Joe's than I've learned from looking at a lot of tech companies about like just.
That's really interesting. Why? Why is that?
They just care about quality, and they don't waste money. They don't plow money into the diminishing returns, things like advertising. Advertising is diminishing returns. Like at some point it ceases to make sense to plow more money into advertising because your lifetime value of
Quincy, you've offended so many people in this interview already. I thought you were before, but now you really are. Advertising is diminishing returns. Explain.
Yeah, well, at some point it does make sense. It's rational to keep running Google ads or Facebook ads to raise awareness or something. But at some point you've kind of saturated the market, or it's so competitive that your cost of acquiring a customer, if I can remember the acronyms correct, your CAC, which is like a cool archaic word for cock. So your CAC is so high that it's the expected value of getting somebody on your product is not worth it. So, but it's surprisingly high. Like I remember a while back, I was looking at like, University of Phoenix and other kind of online universities were paying me like $400 per click from Google results. Think about that. So a university is before you've even joined, they assume that a certain number of people who click through are not going to actually enroll. So maybe $1,200, $1,600 they've spent just to get you kind of like enrolled in their program before they've actually even started spending money on teachers.
Right. And something to know, that all appears at the balance sheet of you paying for it. You've got to pay for your own customer acquisition costs. I mean, that's always rolled into the price.
Yeah. Somebody's got to pay. There are no free lunches.
Yeah, no, I mean, but that means that the University of Arizona, a lot of the tuition fee, maybe even
University
high percentage. Sorry, what did I say?
You said University of Arizona.
I'm sorry.
There's nothing wrong with University of Arizona. I just
specifically
calling out University of Phoenix and other for-profit.
Excuse me. The University of Phoenix. A lot of your tuition is going straight to Google or Facebook or whatever AdWords campaign they're running.
So in the startup ecosystem, it used to be back in the .com bubble that like Yahoo was like this giant $100 billion company. And the reason was every single company that got funded would go and buy a big banner ad at the top of yahoo.com. And that was a huge, like their seed round, maybe their Series A was just going to Yahoo. And now your seed round, your Series A is going to two things. One, it's going to developers to build your product because the developers get paid one way or another, right? Yep. They're the ultimate like pickaxes in the gold rush. And the other is advertising on Google and Facebook. Like that's 70% of online advertising right there, just those two companies. So Google and Facebook get really rich off of the venture capital kind of ecosystem, which is constantly churning out startups that are going to spend a whole bunch of money advertising to try to get initial traction and find product market fit.
How much advertising have you done with Free Code Camp?
Zero.
Never. Not a good.
Gave us $10,000 a month in free advertising, and we just didn't even bother using it. We used it for like a month or two, but like it just stopped working because they asked for something, and I was like, yeah, whatever.
How many people are on your site daily? You said
500,000.
That is mind blowing. That's such a great case study for building something that has a really strong value proposition. You've done zero advertising, and you have a recurring base of 500,000 students, basically. What are students? How literally, you just said it though, right? There is no such thing as a free lunch. So yes. How do you, obviously you're a nonprofit, but how do you like make money through donations? I mean, I assume you get paid something.
Yeah, everything is donations. So people, who graduate from Free Code Camp, often they'll turn around and like, hey, I just, increased my earning potential by $20,000, $30,000 a year. I mean, sometimes it can be more extreme.
It's a lot better of an offer than the university thing. I've got to say, I was offended when I realized that my university, Texas A&M, was going to spend the next, I don't know, however long I live, and probably well after I die, amount of time now calling me and asking for more money after you've already made, tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
So at least with you guys, it's on the back. It's on the back end.
Yeah, I mean, what we're interested in, we're not interested in large single, one-time donations. You can definitely do that. We're actually doing a pledge drive right now to create a data science curriculum. I don't want to talk too much about that because I don't want to bore you with the details. But if you want to help out, we're building like a really elaborate like math and computer science and data science, machine learning curriculum. But that's kind of like the pledge drive that's ongoing. But in general, we just like to have a broad coalition of grassroots support. We'd much rather have right now we have about 7,000 people who give us $5 a month. And I'd much rather have 7,000 people who give us $5 a month than one person that gives us $35,000 a month, or 10 people that give us $3,500 a month. It just gets really brittle when you're relying on these rich people to support everything. So it's
and there's also a chance
to have a stable budget.
Yeah, there's also
so we can make payroll and pay for servers.
Yeah, excuse me. Sorry. It's also a much better chance that you get some weird conflicts of interest when you have one guy sustaining you or 10 guys, because all of a sudden you're really beholden to those people. Whereas if you're beholden to a large consumer base who actually uses the product, that's a totally different set of interests that you have to maintain, because your mandate is to make the product better as it should be. What is I saw this with Khan Academy. I saw this video by Sal Khan, I think is his name. I'm a huge fan of his. And it's because of the amount of people he's serving per the dollar that's actually spent on him. I mean, there's obviously this big push for I don't forget what it's called, like altruistic giving. Basically, it's the idea that giving
Effective
has,
altruism.
yeah, it has utility, and like there's good ways to give. There's kind of all giving is good, but there's also dumb ways to give, like less effective ways to give. Do you know like how many dollars are spent a year per student served? I think that's like a really interesting fact to think about.
So I calculate this and I publish it every year because we're we're a 501c3 donor supported nonprofit, same tax status as Khan Academy, same tax status as like, the Red Cross and Doctors Without Borders. So we have to publicly disclose all this stuff, including my income. If you're curious, how much does Quincy make? You can go check. What we do is we put everything into what's called a 990 and we do it. But I also put out like an annual report every year. And one of the things I do is I crunch the numbers of like how many minutes people used Free Code Camp. And then how much money we spent. What was our budget for the year?
Right.
And last year, I think it was close to 50 hours worth of learning for every dollar donated to Free Code Camp. Because we had 1.2, 1.3 billion minutes of usage, which translates to 2,500 years. So it's like going way back before Jesus. If we were to like go back in time, that's the amount of time that people used Free Code Camp last year. And a cool thing about that is that means that there are about 2,500 people using Free Code Camp right now as you and I talk.
That's amazing. It's such an effective use of money. And one thing that I struggle with is that a lot of the people who I talk about on my show, the only reason they're educating, I mean, like, yeah, the incentives do kind of get perverse when you're like trying to become a millionaire by teaching people like get rich online. But like, this is so kind of refreshing talking to you because your whole point is how effectively can we literally teach kids per dollar? And that's kind of amazing. 50 hours per dollar. I hope you guys are paying attention if you're a user of ClickFunnels or something like that. But that's completely insane. I think it's interesting. Your job is to teach more people with less money, and a for-profit education is to make more money per hour spent. That's an interesting way to think about it.
And it's not just for-profit education. Like there's tons of room for improvement in systems. And this isn't, I don't blame individual people usually for the state of like, say, the US education system, but to give you some quick concrete numbers, I think most people on this call most people watching this have probably gone to school at some point. And like, if you went to school in America, in the United States, every year that you went to school, it costs about $10,000. Now in New York City, it's a lot more than that. But like on average, that's the median that America spends per student per year.
And we're not talking about college. We're talking about
like K through 12. Yeah, like sixth grade. So let's say you have a sixth grade teacher and she has a class of 40 people.
Yep.
That means that her class, essentially $400,000 a year, is allocated to teaching those people in her class. Does she get paid $400,000 a year?
No. I know a lot of great teachers who deserve a lot more money, but they get paid, pittance.
There's, you could argue they should be paid certainly a lot more than they are. But why? Why is it? Why are we spending so much money on education, and there's just like this waste exhaust?
I feel like a lot of people would say that the quality of education is also lacking. So not only is the cost of education extremely high, but the quality of education is also, you might say, really questionable.
Yeah.
Can technology change that?
I don't think technology alone can like completely transform it for everybody. And we're seeing the limits of technology, at least with the imagination that our current like educators and administrators. I mean, just to be clear, like, I don't think that the teachers are responsible for a lot of the deficiencies in American like performance on, like, for example, the standardized tests. Like we get our asses kicked if you compare us to like Singapore or Shanghai, which was like, for some reason its own. They didn't test everybody in China.
Oh yeah,
but like all these different countries, like we're pretty low for all the OECD countries.
Right.
And yet we spend probably more than most countries do, most wealthy countries, on education.
The education problem is, I didn't mean to simplify it. My mom's a teacher, and her hands are often tied by the administration. So yeah, I want to make that really
So,
clear.
so just to be 100% clear, like I'm just saying systems. These are problems with systems administration. Like, why do we have schools? Why are classes the same, like the length that they are? Why do we have 12 grades and the only way to advance to the next grade is turn a year older? Like, there's so much irrationality. Like we really need to look at we need to return to first principles and figure out, why is education the way it is? Sal Khan, actually, whom you mentioned earlier, has a book called One World Schoolhouse, where he talks about a lot of these kind of notions. But for me, I think that a lot of it is just like, it's expensive to run a school and to air condition it. And, every school has to have a gym. Every school has to have a football team. And like pretty soon you've got all these non-academic related costs that just stack up. And then how much is there actually left at the end of the year? Like, the teachers are buying school supplies, and can get a teacher discount so that they can take the school supplies to provide them for their class, because the school doesn't provide it when there's $400,000 per class per year. It's insane. And that's like, I don't think the school systems pay taxes or anything either. So that's like, it's like after tax, it's ridiculous. So yeah, I don't want to sound like I'm just knocking like American K through 12 education. Universities,
I don't think you're knocking it as much as it's a sort of truism at this point among most people who've been through the educational system in the past 50 years. Everyone's sort of experienced a very sort of similar experience. I don't think many people would consider it knocking it as much as you're just sort of stating the fact of the situation.
What I'm trying to say, though, to answer your original question, sorry for the circuitous response, is technology is not some panacea that's just going to make all our troubles go away. Oh, technology, just increase the technology budget. And no, because those administrators are going to go out and get really crappy ERP systems, and like different database tools from like Oracle or some corporation that like bilks people, bilks governments, bilks institutions. The big enterprise salesperson is going to take the CIO to golf, and and the money's not going to be well spent. So the answer is not to empower organizations at the top to make big sweeping technological choices, because that we've seen where that goes. And you can walk into any university system and look at like their, go back there, look at what the university admins, what tools are they working with? I know at like University of California, Santa Barbara, I had a friend who was a prof there, and he said that in the admin, like every computer on the campus had Netscape Navigator 5 installed, because there were systems that could only run using Netscape Navigator 5. They couldn't run any more contemporary browsers, and they were mission critical. And I mean, this is like one of the wealthiest public university systems in the world. So the answer is to have the teachers themselves make a lot of the technology decisions and have kind of like this bottom-up percolation. It's kind of like a Dropbox model as opposed to Box, if you're familiar with the corporate, equivalent of Dropbox. Costs 10 times as much, right?
Yeah.
So, it's basically like, if everybody's like, hey, I'm using Dropbox and you're using Dropbox, let's just get a team account, right? Like, problem solved for a fraction of what it would cost if you'd gotten Oracle involved. Yeah, so I think empowering the individual people with technology is what we need. What we don't need is big, broad sweeping, like high level initiatives.
I think that's really important. And it goes back to what seems like your fundamental philosophy on funding as well, which is also more grassroots focused. Quincy, talking to you, I'm sort of struck because given obviously your website's, extreme popularity, you're sort of, I don't know if you look at yourself like this, because you're sort of understated. We've talked before, but you're one of the you're one of the leaders of this like open education movement, because you're a model of how this can, work. How do you see it going in the next 10 years for Free Code Camp? How do you see it going for the guy who's going to create the next Free Code Camp?
Yeah. Well, I think open source is powerful. There's that whole quote about like Bill Gates said that he and Steve Jobs like both had this wealthy neighbor over at Xerox PARC, and Bill Gates broke in to steal his TV only to discover that Steve Jobs had already broken in and stolen it first with the Macintosh.
Yeah.
I feel like to some extent, like I'm just some random teacher who learned a little bit of programming skills and like wandered into this, you know, emporium of open source software. And I was like the only customer in the entire thing. And there were just people like, hey, try our software, try our software. It was amazing. And, Free Code Camp, like I basically just used I strapped together a bunch of open source libraries together and got things going. And Free Code Camp itself, of course, is open source. And we use the very permissive BSD3 license. And a lot of people use MIT license. There are less permissive open source licenses. So they're not all the same. You don't need a law degree to like parse the two, but generally if it's MIT or if it's BSD, you're probably good, by the way. But yeah, I saw that. I saw Creative Commons, like books, Creative Commons licensed courses, all these tools that we could use. And we managed to strap together tons of different tools into like a full-fledged learning curriculum and a community, like our forum software, right? That's open source. The internet radio station, Code Radio, that's running on my friend his tool called AzuraCast. That's basically just like a free open source internet radio station. You pay like $15 a month and you can like host your own internet radio, right? Same thing with chat. There's this company out of Brazil called Rocket Chat. It's basically like self-hosted Slack that's open source. We pay nothing except for the server, and we've got like our own enterprise level self-hosted Slack that doesn't leak any data out to like Salesforce or any of these other companies, right? It's just like ours. You can own the future, and most of it is free. You just go grab it, and code is infinitely reproducible. So you just you spin up your own server, it just blows my mind that like more people are turning to these big enterprise companies for solutions when so many solutions are open source, and you can just like with a little bit of technology acumen and a lot of curiosity, you can very quickly build your own system. And I am confident that there's not going to be like an X free code camp per se. It's going to be thousands of little free code camps. It's going to be the equivalent of like Cleveland is going to have its own, like some enterprising teachers are going to put together this system that like all the teachers band together. And at some point it's not going to make sense to have individual schools or individual, like I see the future of education as just a bunch of strip malls. Somebody rents a room, like a shop on that strip mall, and sets up some desks and maybe get some old, Linux-based lab computers and stuff. And people just go there and they learn. And it's like a community school where people teach one another. This may sound like, utopian and stuff, but this happens. Like there are people doing this right now in India. There are people doing this right now in Nigeria, in places where like they don't have the wealth that we have to keep this behemoth continuing to run the way the current education industry works in the US. So we're going to see all kinds of innovation. And I hope that Free Code Camp can be a part of it. There are programs that take Free Code Camp and put it on computer labs inside prisons so that people can learn valuable job skills while they're in prison when they can't access the internet. You can run Free Code Camp completely, entirely on your local area network. So there's tremendous potential to take education and essentially federate it, and not have these big, not be beholden to these gatekeepers like the U.S. federal government, for example, or like specific school districts and things like that. And in the U.S., homeschool laws are extremely permissive, and you could easily just create your own school. So I hope more people will do that.
You've convinced me. Now, I want to add one context before we wrap up here, because you're a very charismatic dude with a vision for education that a lot of people are going to find really resonant. One interesting thing on my show is we have a series called Real Jobs, where we just talk to people about how they sort of found themselves in these places that they do, because I'm a big believer that sort of you kind of find your way, and you kind of find jobs you may never have expected to find yourself in. And that's okay. It's actually a normal part of the human experience. You probably never saw yourself as like the founder of this, company, educating so many kids. Connect the dots between, so you're in Japan, sort of this administrator. I feel like we got a picture of sort of who you were. You're looking up to this bohemian guy who realized, maybe materialism isn't totally the great answer. Once you survive past your your survival needs, it becomes largely irrelevant. So you're looking for sort of like this, like maybe this like larger purpose or something. How did you go from that middle manager and connect the dots all the way to Free Code Camp?
Sure. Well, first, of course, I spent years learning to code and working as a software engineer and doing freelance jobs and stuff, which was interesting because I was 31 when I learned to code. And a lot of people like assume, oh, I'm not some, 23-year-old Stanford grad. I can't learn to code. And I'm actually like, this is such a, I guess, endemic misconception that I had to create. I created an entire hashtag, right? There's like a giant Twitter list if you search hashtag dev after 30. And I wrote like a big article where I like showed some of the experiences of these people. But a lot of people think like, oh, I'm set. Like my brain is like, in this mold and it's jello and it's not going to move around. It's already dried, right? Like that is the most, I guess, limiting way that you can look at your personal development. The reality is like during the pandemic, I started playing bass, right? And like I started like learning like slap bass and like awesome. Memorizing the fretboard and just playing tons of awesome like police songs from the 70s and the Clash and stuff like that, right? So I'm 40 years old, right? Like I'm sure plenty of people would say like, oh, well, you always hear like the first thing you hear when you read about a musician, he started playing piano when he's 4. Something like that, right? It's a joke. Like I think adults can learn way better than kids. I have 2 young kids. I try to teach them all the time.
Listen, I'm a big believer in this. I think adults are limited by time, but actually your ability to even understand the meta skill of learning increases with age. And so, yeah, and there is some truth to that where you can, if an adult is serious enough and they're willing to take on that beginner's mindset, they can learn a lot. I taught myself piano and I really never got started. I took lessons as a kid, hated it. Eventually I sort of got started when I was like, I don't know, 12, 13, but even I got much better when I actually became an adult and I actually was sort of like enjoying playing, etc. But I had the exact experience. I was like, yeah, I don't know. I agree. I 100% agree. I think it's interesting that you're a case study for your own product though, that you're not, I assume talking to you that you were some Stanford grad or whatever. I mean, you said you were a state school, but I assume sort of, oh, you had to have had a background. It's so interesting to me that you are exactly in that demographic that your own product teaches.
Yeah, I mean, I was.
Do people know this about you?
I was 31 years old, and that's when I created Free Code Camp and got people involved. And I was able to like, the best mascot, I guess, the best spokesman is somebody who is not just a member, but
product of the product. Yeah, it's
right?
true.
Like, so,
it's true though.
Yeah. Like I'm basically applying my hard-won wisdom about what does work and what doesn't work. And I went down tons of blind alleys, man. Like I spent years like banging my head, like thinking I was an imposter. If you Google like Business Insider, Quincy Larson, imposter syndrome, something like that, right? Like you'll find this Business Insider like profiled me and my experiences with imposter syndrome working at a tech startup as a 30-year-old guy who was on his first developer job. I mean, like I've lived that experience and I can kind of relate to people. So I can tell you, if you are watching this and you want to learn to code, any sufficiently motivated person can learn to code. It has very little to do with IQ or aptitude. If you believe in evolution and you believe that like humans originated in Africa and that we were basically just running around like killing animals and like burning them and eating them and stuff, and that was like our heritage, you're going to think like, okay, were there computers back then? Was there like abstract mathematics? Was like any of this stuff that software engineers use, was it selected for over 100,000 years of evolution? No. like the only difference that I can see is the rich kids who got a computer when they were young, like the Mark Zuckerbergs, who, by the way, his parents like paid for him to have programming tutoring for like years and years before he got into Harvard as a CS student, by the way. So like a lot of it is just like, socioeconomic privilege, like many things, right? So just because they act like programming is easy and everything, the things that you learn when you're a kid, you tend to forget how hard they were when you learn them.
Absolutely.
So don't ever believe somebody when they say programming is easy or programming just came naturally to me. When somebody says like that, something like that, I just immediately kind of say like, well, you've forgotten the beginner's mindset, what we call in education, the learner's mindset. You have forgotten what it's like to be at the beginning and to see this giant sea that you have to somehow swallow up. But it's the same way you do anything. It's just like one step at a time, one day after a day. If you were to sit down and code 30 minutes a day, every day for the next 2 or 3 years, you would be a better, potentially better programmer than a lot of the people who are out in the field. You probably almost certainly be better off than people that like got a CS degree or, went to an intensive program, a coding boot camp, because you would have tons of practice, and not just practice, but like practice day after day. And just that day, like working on something for a little bit, then going to sleep, having all that etch into your brain, and then waking up and starting where you were, that process, that is everything. Like forming the habits, forming that muscle memory. And one other thing I'll say that I think is very important, it's a lonely process, and you can definitely get daunted. You can definitely feel insufficient. Everybody does. Everybody feels imposter syndrome, I think.
Yep.
But having a community, hanging out with people that are also developers, that was like my lifeline. Like I knew that guy. I knew the guy who just mined Bitcoin and like coded all day. And like, he was kind of my mentor. And then I hung out with him, and I hung out with a whole bunch of other people at like this place called the Santa Barbara Hackerspace. And that was kind of like my community. That was my tribe that I got pulled into. They took me in. They took some weird, 30-year-old dude in a suit. They took him into their software development club and treated me as one of their own. And that inclusiveness, like that was definitely something that I wanted to build into Free Code Camp as well. It's just a sense of making people feel belonging.
That's incredible. I don't know how much I can I can add to that. That's it's funny is I rarely get spellbound by the people I'm interviewing story, but I was like kind of like listening as if I was like an audience member there for a second. That's amazing. I hope other people can find their tribe, whether it be coding or anything, in a space that prioritizes their learning in the same spirit that you do. Thanks, Quincy. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for coming on the show, discussing all these things. If you want to find him, you can find him on Twitter at Quincy Larson. Where else can people find you? Obviously, they can go learn to code at Free Code Camp.
Yeah. Just go to freecodecamp.org and take a look. And when you sign up, you're going to get like this little spiel from me that tells you like coding's hard, like basically like trying to sell you on not using Free Code Camp. And if you're still like, yeah, I should still use Free Code Camp, screw Quincy, I'm going to do this. Then that means it's meant to be. So
psychology, good reverse psychology.
Yeah, give it a go. And even if you don't end up using it, it's still a valuable skill. It's still fun. And another thing, just because you think you suck at math, it just means that you didn't like it.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Reddit Saturdays. We talk about the memes, guys. Another one, okay? It's another one. We're getting into it today. Got a huge announcement at the end of this. But before we get to that, guys, let's see what you guys have been doing right in my absence. What have you guys been up to? Brian interviewing the Metacore guy. Do the skinny people cringe and say, don't tell them that, Metacore? Yes. Don't tell them what you know. Keep them fat. Guys, if you don't know, we're talking about Robert Kiyosaki's famous meme here.
Do the rich people cringe and say, don't tell them that, Robert?
Yes. Don't tell people what you know. Right. Keep them poor.
Keep them poor! Oh, we cringe for another reason entirely, trust me. Anyone fancy it? Joining me live today. Nope. No thanks, actually. A lot of Brian posts. Let me say right in advance, I'd love to play you some of Brian's shenanigans. But Mr. Free Speech, yeah, he took down my Drip podcast, took down the whole 4-hour live stream. I clipped out the clip that he copyrighted. He copyright claimed it again. So, Mr. Free Speech, he doesn't actually like it when it's turned against him. He only likes it when he's doing it. You get it?
I've heard you say many times, and I get goosebumps each time I hear you say it. I might not agree with everything you have to say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it. Why are you willing to stand up for even people being able to speak their minds when you disagree with them?
Yeah, so it's a great question. And
financial markets keep getting worse, taking people's money. Do you have only for Forex? How do we split the profit? All profit is split 50-50. Jeez, guys, don't do this, please. Right now, the market's never been worse for stock scams. Please, guys, please go with a registered broker. Please go into like long-term, value investing. Please, it's a good way to not lose all your money. When a scammer arrives in the wrong neighborhood, a scammer trying to peddle his course. Coffeezilla, Spencer Cornelia, Tom Nash, Mike Wennett. That's how it be, guys. Trying to keep this place safe for you guys stumbling around, falling into pyramid schemes. Okay. Bot Feb $100 calls on $Zilla. Get the new ticker, guys. Just IPO'd. We're launching off. Get in on the ground floor of the most exciting opportunity of your life. Look, put in your likes, your subscriptions now, because we're closing it all down in March. Not allowed to invest in March, so get in Feb. Coffeezilla advertising YouTube ads. Why is that Coffeezilla advertises and works with YouTube promoting ads that are scamming our community? I heard AdBlock can work. How do y'all do it? I can't figure it out. Guys, first of all, use AdBlock like the rest of us normal mortals, okay? Or get YouTube Red. First of all, I don't choose the ads that get placed on my YouTube channel, and that's number one. Number two, I don't feel bad about taking scammers' money. I'm gonna be honest. Nobody in my community is falling for this stuff, okay? Please don't. I mean, we tell you it. But I've actually heard from multiple people that it's like a weird, almost reinforcement of what we talk about all the time on this channel, where we're talking about like scams and people go, oh, it's not a big deal. That's the thing that I get the most when they first start watching my channel. They go, hey, what's the big deal really? And then they get like 5 ads in and they go, oh, this is way worse than I thought. So basically YouTube automatically puts us into the tags based on like the auto-generated tags, because they see that the community that watches me also watches, you know, all those guys. But we're trying to pull you out of that world, guys. Eventually, we're going to be out of there. Hopefully, nobody watches that stuff anymore, and then our ad base or whatever can shift out of that towards something more wholesome, like, I don't know, Coca-Cola. Or Skechers, I don't know. Bottom line is, guys, I don't choose who advertises on my channel, but I also don't feel bad about it either, because we're educating people about what not to do. When you see an audit on Brian Rose's social accounts and you see that he has 41% fake followers. Ooh, okay, 41% suspicious. Interesting. I'm gonna have to keep an eye on that. Literally, such a bummer that we can't talk about Brian Rose. I'm honestly thinking of petitioning to make a freedom platform ourselves. You guys want to pitch in? Coffeezilla, when he realizes that he can make free ebooks and courses about how to spot fake gurus. Oh yeah, it's all coming together. Have you not already seen my free video about this? Hey, free video. Go watch my live webinar. Yeah, but honestly, I have thought about making a fake ad before. I do think that would be really funny. Like using all their tactics. Like, hey guys, you can learn the secret to getting rich using a technique only known by a rare Zimbabwe island natives. Do this to get knowledge. Oh, the Feed Your Mind starter pack. Ooh, remove Tony Robbins, Dean Graziosi, Tal Lopez, Grant Cardone, Dan Locke, Robert Kiyosaki, Bob Proctor, Warren Buffett, I don't know. Warren Buffett's legit. Jordan Belfort, definitely remove him. Definitely remove Napoleon Hill. Yeah, Warren Buffett definitely belongs on this list over here. Carl Jung, Friedrich Nietzsche, Immanuel Kant. This is like more of philosophy. But if you actually just want to feed your mind in finance, there's a lot of great people in finance as well. In fact, maybe you should start with Warren Buffett's favorite guy, Benjamin Graham, the intelligent investor, or A Random Walk Down Wall Street, or Influence by Robert Cialdini, or The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. Look, guys, are we going to start a book club eventually? I feel like we need to. I saw Coffee's Twitter post about making a soundtrack, so I went ahead and tried making some. Let's check this out. Okay, full disclosure, I've already seen this. It's amazing.
I know what you mean. This ain't what it seemed. Nothing but a trick, trying to sell me on a dream, but that was where you lost me. Woo! Wake up and smell the coffee. I know what you mean. This ain't what it seemed. Nothing but a trick, trying to sell me on a dream, but that was where you lost me. Wake up and smell the coffee.
Woo! Hey, that's professional. That's professional. Listen, we've listened to a lot of songs. That's the first one that I feel like could go on Spotify right now. Awesome. I'm working right now to get it cleared for YouTube use. I want to make that our new intro or outro or something. How awesome is that? Want to give this guy a huge shout out. Anton Pax, guys. Keep an eye out for this guy. Here's his logo. I think you can find him on Spotify. Incredible. My man's going places in the Coffeezilla community at minimum. You're now, hey, congratulations, you're famous. Immediate platinum for that. Epic. Give. Boom. Platinum, baby. Caleb Maddox post. Dude, this guy's nonstop content. $100 million plus in 2021 is inevitable. Screenshot this and keep me accountable on New Year's 2022. Oh, no, Caleb. Oh, my man's going for the maximum wage. He says $100 million of course sales. For sure. I can get you guys to buy in that. Screenshot it, guys. We will remind him. This is getting out of hand. They're flooding Clubhouse now. Oh, yeah. I've seen this, guys. I know all of you guys are DMing me to do a video about this. I'm going to do a video about Clubhouse. Chidster, all these guys are all on here, and they were doing this thing for a while where they were faking Instagram verification in their profiles. So they'd like have a Clubhouse profile, it wouldn't be verified, but then they'd have a blue check mark next to their face. It was ridiculous, and it still is ridiculous. Mods are asleep. Zilla is taking a break. Post yoga gurus not allowed. Not banned. Hey, how do I ban this guy? You do the crime, you do the time. Brian Zimmer Rose. When old Bri gets caught for his shenanigans, I can't walk. Guys, this is a reference to The Drip podcast, which you go subscribe to if you want, where we talked about how it seems like anytime anybody gets caught for, some kind of crime, they go from fully able-bodied to hobbling on a cane the next day. We were referencing Harvey Weinstein, but you know what? Bri, when he gets arrested, probably pull out the Walker too. Skamish is savage. Get him, swag! He did say that. I couldn't believe it. I was like, Amish! Skamish. He said that before he knew what was really going down. He said he's yelling at the YouTube videos. Get him, swag! Honestly, can't blame him. 2K subscribers. Well done, memers. Guys, get in. r/Coffeezilla_GG. Join the movement. Big Chungus Rose.
You got a tight little man, pussy.
No! This is not right. Hey, Warner Bros. Called. They want their IP back. Another big L for Brian Rose today. Dude, we're just all about the Brian Rose stuff today. Fake guru gets caught out on his credentials, gets big mad. What are you talking about?
I'm not mad. I am mad.
I would hope that at the top of this, people are getting popular, disseminating good information, and not being grossly irresponsible and hyping everybody up on a bunch of stuff that I would have expected you to know wasn't true.
And I want you to justify.
Did Destiny just Zilla this man? Yo, me and Destiny, we're almost the same person. He's half Cuban. I'm half Cuban. His name is Steven. My name's Steven. I actually think that's where the similarities end, actually. I'm just saying, maybe he's trying to copy Coffeezilla. I don't know. I like it, though. I'm down with it. I don't care. Kevin David copied others' content for his own benefits. People may think of his own ideas, but it's not. F-U, copycat Kevin. What is this? Those who are planning to be businessmen may understand efforts to create a business. So he says, steps to start a business. And then you Google starting a business, the balance, and everything lines up perfectly. Editor, can we do a little side by side there? Seriously, look at these two. They're the exact same. Ladies and gentlemen, I rest my case. Okay, Kevin David has not changed one bit, baby. Why would Brian need to edit a 2-word post? Because he hasn't got a clue where he is. Oh, it looks like in this post, oh my gosh, he goes, hello, Hackney. And then he edited it over on his YouTube page to say, hi, Newham. Oh gosh. That... guys, he's from America. What do you expect? He's an American trying to run for mayor of London, okay? What do Coffeezilla and Kim Kardashian have in common? I don't know. That we're both highly fashionable? I don't know. What do you think? They both hobbits. Okay. Hey! We need to have some respect around here. Some ground rules, guys. There needs to be some respect for me. I'm not sensing that from you guys right now, and I don't like it.
Bitch, how you not the Hobbit again?
Okay, this is the last thing I wanted to show you guys, because it leads into our big announcement. Oh, a little post from our boy Billy Jean is marketing. Now, I don't think I've said that much negative about this guy besides just laughing at him for fake retiring. But he goes, anybody know this? I'm not even going to say that word. Hey, Billy Jean, you watch your mouth, your dirty mouth right now. At coffeebreak_YT. He has an entire YouTube channel dedicated to try to tear down other people. Says a bunch of I promise he'd never say to their faces. Well, we'll see about that, Billy. Insecure and damaged little trying to hurt people because he's hurt and feels insignificant. Tag this... Stop it! Tag this boy in the comments. We're going to have a conversation, guys. So he posts this on, I guess, Instagram. Immediately deletes it. So then he DMs me, guys. And, well, I set up a debate. Of course, that's what I wanted to announce. We're debating 12:30 PST this Thursday, guys, live. AKA 2:30 CST, if you're like me. Yeah, so we'll see. We'll see what he did. By the way, when I started talking to him, he had already deleted the post. So I don't know. He's coming in hot, okay? And it should be very interesting to talk to him. I think we're going to have a great time. It's been a while since we've had a nice little debate, live debate. It's going to be fun. Am I fake news, guys? Am I insecure and hurt? By the way, how are you going to call me this? I mean, I have been married and then like been with the same girl for 12 years. I don't know that that really applies. Billie Jean is marketing. We'll see. We'll see. It's going to be a fun time. We're going to go through it all. Okay. So if you want to see me, talk to him. We're going to go ahead and do a live thing. And I think he's going to upload it as a podcast later. But, you know, it's funny. I think it's great. We'll see if I can say stuff to his face that he promises I will never say. So it's going to be a good time. All right. So that's basically it, guys. Keep bringing on the memes. I love to see them. Thanks for watching. Pump the stock. And I will see you tomorrow.
I know what you mean. This ain't what it seemed. Nothing but a trick, trying to sell me on a dream, but that was where you lost me. Wake up and smell the coffee. I know what you mean. This ain't what it seemed. Nothing but a trick, trying to sell me on a dream, but that was where you lost me.